Stop studying. You're wasting your time. If you're studying the way most students do, you're probably wasting 80% of your time and you don't even realize it. Ever spent hours cramming only to forget everything in the exam? The problem isn't your intelligence. It's your method. Most students learn how to study the right way too late. But by the time you finish this video, you'll know exactly how to study effectively and save yourself years of frustration. I'm going to share the exact strategies backed by science that separate struggling students from top performers. These aren't complicated tricks. They're fundamental shifts in how you approach learning. This might be the most important 15 minutes you spend this week. Imagine you're trying to fill a bucket with water, but there are holes everywhere. No matter how much you pour in, most of it leaks out. Frustrating, right? That's exactly what happens when most students study. They spend hours trying to absorb information. They read chapters, highlight sentences, review notes over and over. But their brains aren't retaining most of it. And the worst part? They don't realize until they're sitting in an exam thinking, I know I studied this. Why can't I remember it? Here's why. There's a massive difference between exposure to information and learning information. Your brain doesn't remember things just because you looked at them. It remembers things that it has actively processed, struggled with, and retrieved on its own. The difference isn't time spent. It's how you spent that time. So let's break down the 3 biggest mistakes that are sabotaging your study sessions. Mistake number 1, highlighting and rereading. I know, your highlighter is your best friend. But here's what research shows. Rereading has a retention rate of only 10%. That means if you reread a chapter today, by next week you'll forget 90% of it. Why? Because of the fluency illusion. When you reread, your brain recognizes the words. They feel familiar, and your brain thinks, oh, I know this. But recognition is not the same as recall. Think about it. If you've watched the same movie 20 times, does that make you a filmmaker? No, you're just familiar with the story. The same thing happens with studying. When you reread your notes, you're getting familiar with words on the page. But familiarity doesn't mean you can explain the concept, apply it to a problem, or recall it under pressure. And highlighting? Research shows it has almost no measurable benefit for long-term retention. You're creating a colorful document that you'll forget anyway. Now, reading has its place. But if rereading and highlighting are your primary strategies, you're building your house on sand. Mistake number 2, cramming at the last minute. Let's be honest. We've all been there. It's 11 p.m., the exam is tomorrow morning, and you've got 3 chapters to get through. You grab coffee, maybe an energy drink, and you hunker down for an all-night study marathon. And sometimes it works, kind of. You walk into that exam with information fresh in your mind. You scrape by with a decent grade, and you think, see, cramming works. But here's what you don't see. Within 48 to 72 hours, almost everything you crammed is gone. Vanished. Like it was never there. Why? Because of how memory actually works. Your brain has 2 types of memory, short-term and long-term. Short-term memory is like a sticky note. It holds information temporarily while you're using it. Long-term memory is like a filing cabinet. It stores information for weeks, months, or years. When you cram, you're stuffing information into short-term memory. You're not giving your brain any reason to file it away permanently. As far as your brain is concerned, this information is disposable. You used it once, and now it can be thrown out to make room for new stuff. This is why cramming is so dangerous for cumulative subjects. If you crammed for your midterm, you might pass. But when finals come around and you need that foundational knowledge, it's not there anymore. You have to relearn everything from scratch. There's also a physiological problem with cramming. When you're sleep-deprived, which most crammers are, your brain literally cannot consolidate memories properly. Sleep is when your brain takes short-term memories and converts them to long-term storage. Skip the sleep, skip the consolidation. So you're not just being inefficient. You're actively sabotaging your own memory. And here's a harder truth. Students who master material deeply will always outperform crammers in the long run. They build on their knowledge. They make connections. They develop expertise. Crammers just keep starting over. Number 3, studying passively. This is perhaps the most common mistake of all, and it's closely related to the first 2. Passive studying means you consume information without doing anything with it. You read, you watch, you listen, you absorb, but you never produce. Here's an analogy that makes this crystal clear. Let's say you want to learn how to swim. Would you check out a book on swimming from the library, Read all about proper technique. Watch YouTube videos of Olympic swimmers, and then jump into the deep end expecting to glide through the water? Of course not. That would be insane. You'd probably drown. Yet when it comes to academic learning, students do exactly this. They read the textbook, watch the lectures, maybe review their notes, and then they're shocked when they can't perform on the exam. Reading about something and doing something are fundamentally different cognitive processes. When you passively consume information, you're exercising your ability to passively consume information. But exams don't test consumption. They test production. They ask you to recall, explain, analyze, apply, and create. If you never practice those skills while studying, why would you suddenly be able to do them under exam pressure? This is why active learning is so powerful. When you actively engage with material, by testing yourself, solving problems, explaining concepts aloud, or teaching others, you're practicing the exact skills you'll need when it counts. Your brain learns what it does, not what it sees. So now you know the mistakes. But knowing what's wrong is only half the battle. Let's talk about what's right. Here's the fundamental shift you need to make. Studying isn't about how much time you spend. It's about how much you retain. I've seen students who study for 5 hours and forget everything within a week. I've also seen students who study for 1 hour and remember the material for years. The difference isn't talent or intelligence. It's strategy. Most people treat studying like mindless repetition. Read it again. Highlight it again. Look at it until it feels familiar. But real learning happens when your brain is actively challenged, when it struggles, when it makes connections, when it retrieves information on its own. This is the core principle. Retention matters more than consumption. Instead of asking, how many hours did I study? Start asking, how much of what I studied can I actually recall and use? This one shift changes everything. It changes how you approach your textbook. It changes how you take notes. It changes how you prepare for exams. Let me show you a framework that makes this concrete. You may have heard of something called the learning pyramid. While the exact percentages are debated among researchers, the underlying principle is well supported by cognitive science. The idea is simple. Different learning activities lead to different levels of retention. At the bottom of the pyramid, the least effective methods, we have passive learning, reading on your own, listening to lectures, watching demonstrations. These activities have their place, but they lead to relatively low retention, especially if that's all you do. As you move up the pyramid, learning becomes more active and retention increases dramatically. Discussion groups, where you talk through ideas with others, retention improves significantly. Practice and application, where you actually do problems and apply concepts, retention jumps even higher. And at the top, teaching others. When you teach something, you have to organize it in your head, explain it clearly, and answer questions. This process creates incredibly strong memory traces. The principle here isn't complicated. The more actively you engage with material, the better you remember it. So if you're spending all your time at the bottom of the pyramid, reading and listening, you're using the weakest tools in your toolkit. It's like trying to hammer a nail with a screwdriver. You might eventually get the job done, but you're making it way harder than it needs to be. The goal is to spend more time at the top of the pyramid, practicing, applying, discussing, and teaching. Now let's get practical. I'm going to give you specific techniques you can start using today. The most powerful study technique is something called active recall. This is the simple practice of testing yourself instead of just reviewing material. Here's why it works. When you try to pull information out of your memory, rather than just putting information in, you strengthen the neural pathways that store that information. Every time you successfully retrieve something, it becomes easier to retrieve next time. It's like walking through a forest. The first time you walk a path, it's difficult. There are branches in the way, the ground is uneven. But if you walk that path every day, it becomes a clear trail. That's what retrieval practice does for your memory. Technique 1, the Feynman Technique. Named after the famous physicist Richard Feynman. This technique is simple but incredibly effective. Step 1. Choose a concept you're trying to learn. Step 2. Try to explain it as if you were teaching it to someone with no background knowledge, like a child or someone completely new to the subject. Use simple words. Avoid jargon. Step 3. When you get stuck, and you will get stuck, go back to your notes or textbook and relearn the parts you struggled with. Those gaps in your explanation are gaps in your understanding. Step 4. Refine and simplify your explanation until it's crystal clear. This works because teaching forces your brain to organize information coherently. You can't teach what you don't understand, and the act of trying reveals exactly where your understanding is weak. Technique 2. Self-quizzing. This is straightforward but underused. Instead of rereading your notes, test yourself on them. Close your book, put away your notes, and try to write down everything you remember about a topic. Or use flashcards, but use them the right way. Don't just flip through them passively. Actually try to recall the answer before looking. You can also use past exam papers. These are gold. They show you exactly what kinds of questions you'll face and force you to practice under realistic conditions. Research consistently shows that students who quiz themselves outperform students who spend the same amount of time rereading. In some studies, the difference in exam scores is substantial. We're talking about moving up an entire grade level just by changing how you study. Here's a sobering fact. You forget most of what you learn within hours. This phenomenon is called the forgetting curve, first documented by psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus in the 1880s. His research showed that without reinforcement, we lose the majority of new information very quickly. Within the first hour, we might forget half, and within a week, we might retain only a fraction. This is why cramming fails. You're fighting against the natural decay of memory. But here's the good news. You can hack this curve. The key is a technique called spaced repetition. Instead of studying everything in one marathon session, you spread your learning out over time. Each time you review material, just as you're about to forget it, you strengthen the memory and extend how long you'll remember. The spacing effect is one of the most robust findings in cognitive psychology. Distributed practice beats massed practice consistently across almost every type of learning. Here's a simple protocol. Day 1. Learn the material. Take notes, engage with it actively. Day 2 to 3. Quick review. Spend 10 to 15 minutes actively recalling what you learned. Don't just reread, quiz yourself. Day 7. Test yourself without looking at your notes. See what you've retained and identify gaps. Day 14 to 30. Another quick review or self-test. Each review session reinforces the memory and extends the curve. Material that you review multiple times at spaced intervals can stay with you for months or years. There are also apps designed for spaced repetition that automatically schedule your reviews at optimal intervals. These can be incredibly useful for subjects that require a lot of memorization, like languages, medicine, or law. The bottom line, little and often beats long and rare. 20 minutes a day for a week beats 3 hours the night before. So now you have the techniques. But techniques are useless if you don't actually use them. The real challenge isn't knowing what to do. It's doing it consistently. Most students struggle because they procrastinate, get overwhelmed, or burn out. Let me give you 3 psychological strategies to make studying a sustainable habit. Strategy 1. The 2-minute rule. Procrastination usually happens when a task feels too big or too unpleasant. Your brain resists the idea of sitting down for an hour-long study session, so you keep putting it off. The solution is to make the task tiny. Instead of, I have to study for an hour, tell yourself, I'll just do 1 flashcard. Or, I'll just read 1 paragraph. Or, I'll just spend 2 minutes on this. What happens is fascinating. Once you start, the resistance disappears. Your brain shifts from, I don't want to do this, to, well, I'm already doing it. Might as well continue. Most study sessions that start with 2 minutes end up lasting much longer. The hardest part is starting. Make starting easy. Strategy 2. Habit stacking. New habits are hard to build from scratch. But you already have dozens of habits that happen automatically every day. Brushing your teeth, making coffee, eating meals. The trick is to attach your new study habit to an existing habit. After I pour my morning coffee, I'll review 5 flashcards. After I finish dinner, I'll spend 10 minutes summarizing what I learned today. After I brush my teeth at night, I'll read 1 page of my textbook. By linking the new behavior to an existing routine, you don't have to rely on motivation or memory. The existing habit becomes the trigger for the new one. Strategy 3. The Pomodoro Technique. Long study sessions are exhausting. Your attention wanes, your energy drops, and eventually you're just staring at the page without anything going in. The Pomodoro Technique solves this by breaking study time into focused sprints. Here's how it works. Set a timer for 25 minutes. Work with complete focus, No phone, no distractions. When the timer goes off, take a 5-minute break. After 4 cycles, take a longer break of 15 to 30 minutes. This creates a sustainable rhythm. You know the break is coming, so your brain can tolerate the focus. And the short intervals prevent burnout. It's also much easier to say, I'll do 2 Pomodoros, than I'll study for an hour. Same time, completely different psychological experience. Let's bring this all together with a practical framework you can use immediately. Step 1. When you first learn something, in class or from a textbook, take notes actively. Don't just copy. Rephrase things in your own words. Ask yourself questions as you go. Step 2. Within 24 hours, do your first active recall session. Close your notes and try to write down or explain what you remember. This is where the Feynman Technique shines. Identify the gaps. Step 3. Over the next week, schedule short-spaced review sessions. Use flashcards or self-quizzing. Focus on the areas where you struggled. Step 4. Before an exam, use past papers and practice problems. This tests your ability to apply what you know under realistic conditions. Step 5. Throughout the process, use the habit strategies to stay consistent. Start small. Stack onto existing habits. Use time-focused sessions. This approach takes less total time than traditional studying, but produces dramatically better results. You're working with your brain's natural processes instead of against them. Here's the hard truth I want to leave you with. None of these techniques will help you if you don't actually use them. Knowledge without action is useless. Most students will watch videos like this, nod along, think, that makes sense, and then go right back to highlighting their textbooks the night before exams. Don't be most students. The difference between struggling students and successful students isn't intelligence. It isn't talent. It isn't how many hours they put in. It's how effectively they use those hours. Small, consistent effort beats last-minute panic every single time. Start today, not with a massive overhaul of your entire study system. Just try one technique. Do one active recall session. Use the 2-minute rule to overcome your resistance. See how it feels. The students who take this seriously, who actually implement these strategies and stick with them, will look back a year from now and be amazed at how far they've come. You have everything you need. Now go put it into practice. Good luck with your studies. Now go crush it.